When first thought, submit spirit before matter. Our celestial humanity arrives, awake in a dream, an inception of our reality. So we live, we love, and then there is music. So we dance, we sing, we praise, we reflect. In the infinite in between, the now that was faces dance in our dreams. Some familiar, some
a single vision
cosmic composition. In the irrelevance of this time, we realize the passion of the random action, learning the lesson that the brotherhood of man is far more important than the ego of any individual. Imagination becomes the sound of thought, traveling at the speed of light. So we paint on the canvas of our ephemeral encounters, a masterpiece of memory that lives in the eternity of a child. But let's shall we begin?
Sure.
Okay, let me ask you something. Can you tell me, give us a little history of Jim in 16 pages or more or less.
Be careful, man. I might take you seriously. Still going at midnight here. Yeah, so I'm a white boy, grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, in a neighborhood in transition, and came to Detroit fresh out of college, 6 days after I graduated. Landed in East Side Detroit, East Grand Boulevard, Lafayette area, part of the 4th Congressional District in the country at that point in time, about 98% African American. Came up to be part of a Christian community where black and white, married and single, were pooling income and assets on a poverty level basis, making major life decisions together and running all kinds of programs in the neighborhood, school, a daycare center, clothing exchange shop, food pantry, helping low-income people take over their apartment buildings in a cooperative legal structure by supplying some capital and technical expertise, brokering that into the neighborhood. And so that was my first 15 years in Detroit. And initially, I thought I was on some kind of mission to help poor people deal with their reality in the inner city. It took about 8 years to get over that bit of white flatulence, and finally recognized after 8 years that folk in that neighborhood already knew how to survive in ways far beyond my skill level. You know, kids who could take a boombox and convene a party on a broken down porch, make you forget any club you'd ever been to, grandmothers sitting on porches on summer nights spinning stories, make you forget any sitcom you'd ever listened to. 4 generations of a family living in a duplex about 3 houses away from Church of the Messiah, where this community was based. 28 people living in 3 bedrooms, food cooking 24/7, a lot of dysfunction up in there, but amazing capacity to take minimal resources and yield maximal humor and personality and vibrancy. And once I got so I could see that, then I realized I'm not here to help anybody do anything. I'm here to learn about this thing called white skin, this bigger thing called Detroit, this big thing called the United States of America, to learn from folk who grew up very different from me. And that's really where the poetry came from, is over the years starting to internalize some of the vibe recognizing that people were using a percussive culture in all kinds of ways, not just in terms of music, but just ways of walking and talking and thinking, vibing on each other, call response epistemology, that was constantly probing life and making it cough up all kinds of meaning that otherwise wouldn't be there. And so some of that got up inside me and comes out now as poetry. And of course, as a white man in Detroit, at one level, that's letting my body be rearranged by a culture and a community not my own, which can be part of white people, one more time, stealing Black creativity. And my only guard against that is by maintaining relationship where people can check me and tell me, no, Jim, that's going too far. For me not to let Black culture up inside me would be to perpetuate white ignorance, which is also part of how white supremacy has fed on Black creativity and labor. So I've chosen rather to participate, let myself be changed in the relationship over now more than 35 years of living here in Detroit, letting Detroit own and claim me, but also letting it hold me accountable and check me when I need that. So in the process, also went off to the University of Chicago for 7 years to do a PhD. Wrote my dissertation really about my experience as a white male in inner city Detroit. My academic work has been a lot about critical race theory, which is a very particular thing. I shouldn't actually say that, because that's up inside the legal discipline. I do stuff on white supremacy, on settler colonialism, on what it means to be a white male in this country in late 20th now, early 21st century, and pay attention especially to Black and brown authors. And then finally met the woman I could marry in 2001, a Filipina. Grew up in a barrio north of Manila when we came to the States. 1995, she did a PhD at Arizona State University, got snapped up by the University of Denver to teach for them. I met her a year and a half into that enterprise of hers, and knew within 24 hours, this is the one I committed to. We did long distance for 2 years. I moved out there, keeping one toe back in Detroit, teaching at the seminary where I still teach, while teaching at the University of Denver alongside her. It's one of the whitest campuses in the country. And ultimately, we both were teaching about race and about the history of the country, the colonialism that's never not been part of this show here. And so ultimately, we couldn't make it work out there for both of us, so we came back to Detroit, settled back in on the Near East Side. She teaches at Oakland University. I continue to teach at the seminary, where I have been involved all the way along. And that's when I met Ron Allen and found a mentor, friend, colleague who pushed me on the poetry I was already doing to go deeper and wilder.
Oh, okay. Sounds great. Having said all that, let's get into, I'm going to propose this one to you. Using your quantum ego, quirk, and persona, what is this reality called poetry manifested as Jim Perkinson?
Yeah, and I feel like I just need to ask Bilal to go on and riff. I mean, he asks questions that are poetry themselves. It's like maybe I should just sit back and listen. But I know this is about me for right now, so yeah, let me go on and try to be a quantum ego. So maybe what I'd offer is two shorter ones, poems in response to that. One is called Without a Mouth. On the back fence that knows no philosophy, The morning writes a calligraphy of shadow, masterpiece of chance, that my own end reads from beyond the grave. The birds know as well, but have decided not to write a Bible. I remember the leaves of Detroit outside my room in the inner city, a castle of green despite the throb and blister of concrete, chattering in motion, choruses of words aimed elsewhere, seen but not heard, like a taste of apple without a mouth, or a September sky. And this is the task of a word, to flutter in time as it falls, full of the meaning of everything. Poetry, to sit and decipher the day and be deciphered by a meaning that will only become clear at night.
Whoa.
All right, and maybe one other one here. It's called Labor Pains of the Syncopated End. I can't get my mouth wide enough. I am rind of open on the rising back of the universe, skin of flea trying to swallow the golden pickle, elephant grunt in a tiny hut of now. My death is the wide open split of possibility, unleashing 1,000 seeds of invisible blue like the unarrived idea of God. I might still become myself at the end of time. I might hang myself upside down inside your ear and whisper secret Wednesdays. I might bite your toe like a holy mosquito announcing hair is the paradise of 5 bald prophets. I might be the Big Bang inside your little finger, waiting for the time of pure bone, like the rolling ash of a crematory prayer. I might be you inside my own skin and don't know. And God might be the ungrowled howl on the tip of your tongue, waiting for you to get pregnant. But for now, I am the unsquealed note of the unbent saxophone in the untrained hand of an unborn genius still thinking my next groan might unlock the ultimate rhythm. So here I go again. I can't get my mouth wide enough.
Wow. Yeah. So you say you're a teacher, or a professor, or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Of sorts and whatnot. So, describe teaching from a perspective of an abstract painting.
All right. And here I thought of 2 different ways I might do this. I have to decide which one I want to do. So maybe I'll do it this way. There was a Puerto Rican poet. Since Puerto Rico is in the news right now, they just suffered another hurricane stirred up by putting out so much CO2. And his name was Miguel Pinheiro, who founded a New Yorican Poet Cafe in New York. And Ron Allen put me on to him. There was a video produced that was on a feature film done in a kind of abstract postmodern slabbing of different parts of his life together. And I watched it and then I wrote this. And so I think this is a way of responding to what you just asked. I just watched Pinheiro. I'm stunned. Montage of a mouth surrounded by ears dying of vision. I have the sudden impression of wild horses. I see a man bursting with color, with wind, sky on his forehead like a vista, rivers revolting into his toes, blood like a millennial scream under his tongue. I see long ago. I see apocalypse under the sidewalk. The man trembles with the coat of brick, with glass, with steel bars in his words. His words are needles shooting riots in his vein. His body is too small for the deep black, the reality of an eyeball. His skin is a flag flying the wind. He cannot rupture enough. Bones break in his teeth, under his rib, on his brain. A city emerges. Countries collapse and rise in his gullet. He spits himself deaf. He is blind with seeing. His ear is a globe, a siren, a lost full of groping lovers. He grins, and Picasso falls out, broken into a sentence. Prison is just another word to live in. The wall is a high without an arm to prick. He shoots up the bars, the guards, the stink of toilet. It's all a poem without a tongue. His tongue is big like a building, like a street light shattering. I see aboriginals running inside his words, a Caribbean rooster singing storm, a Seneca warrior splitting skull, a dawn, a prayer, a morgue bursting with undanced vertebrae. What was he to do? Weep? Cut his fingers off? He severed his rib to grasp his heart. It came out red and growing like a slow planet, like a jungle in love with cracks, seeking loam, seeding the street. He gave up a wad of bills like laughter. They exploded into poems, caressing cheeks, grabbing butts, floating, laughing. His patron cursed, and the syringe emptied the city of people. They climbed his arm, came out through his teeth like wind. New York, falling, hitting concrete, waking to its beauty in the mirror of a puddle. The man sat in the puddle, full of blood and memory. People in government fell from his nose. The East River condensed into asphalt, leapt into a verb, burned in blue flame. The city burned, his eye burned, the words burned. His body became the smoke of 100 aspirations, forgotten in the dark, after the dream, before the cold dawn. He lingers, black as vision. My eye explodes. I've already known this flower, this rose from which I vomit myself. But no, I only dream. He wrote to get out of prison and found himself still in prison because he sold trouble and he had to get back inside trouble, so the writing was good. He lived in a van at the end, back where he began. And I see, and I am shallow. I fake, I pimp, I love words, I see the stakes. I have somewhere been burned for love, but I have not stayed in the fire. I merely point. The flames, Mira! They rise in green lightning, living bodies of slow flesh careening like sparks over a barrel in the cold. The gray, cold spider light of city, the fire, the cold, the ice of burn. I point and shout, I burn for them. Huge Olympian sadnesses, opulent tears of dust, it burns my chest, but they live and die. Yes, they are possessed. Right hard steel bone of an unwanted ghost, climbing their throat, their thigh, their eyeball, full of moons and teeth. They burn green. I see. My eye exclaims.
Wow. Man. You never cease to amaze in your poetry, the imagery and the imagery of word, not just the images you produce, but the imagery of word that twists and turns. I've always liked that about your work. You know, it twists and turns and vectors and jets over here, jets over there, comes back to the point and then spits you out like teeth, you know. And then you pick them up and chew a steak, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah. And so for me, teaching is about being taught.
Okay.
It's about letting what I want to teach up inside me and recognizing I'm small in relation to it. At best, I'm just a vehicle letting, as you say, the teeth fall out.
Yeah. What is the future prospect for poets, writers, and artists to come, do you think?
All right, I'm going to offer another one that comes at it obliquely, but I think is all about it. And it's called Why Picasso's Blue Period Ended. So I'm going to answer it in terms of artists being Picasso's, but we'll see where it comes out.
Okay.
I crawled up to heaven one hot August night, found God alone, crying a gumdrop red tear. And as I watched, that tear suddenly became a blue balm crying down the face of an old man painted by Pablo Picasso with Franco's warplanes imaged in the guy's upraised eye. And I jumped. But God said, from his own one open eye staring from the empty left frame of Polaroid wraparound shades, be cool. And looking back through that empty frame, I looked back in time and suddenly saw Picasso steal a mask from a friend who stole it from a bar in Algiers, or was it Tunis, or Addis Ababa, or Memphis, Egypt, way down in Africa land, and the mask became demoiselle. And I said, And then as I watched some more, I suddenly saw God's left nostril snort the white fumes from Picasso's paints as his hand rounded the left breast of his foreground femme fatale African Argo maiden of his dreams. And God suddenly hallucinated, mind exploding, dreaming a whole new world into wild existence, the cosmos as ice cubes. Blue elephants as budding boxcars, orange grass as a flood coming out of a button on a woman's blouse. And at the end of his dreaming, God dreamed a little yellow man named Picasso painting God himself as a pink canary. Well, when Picasso realized his fumes were going someplace else, like prayer without homage or pay, his hands started jumping all over that canvas like something with a mind of its own. But Picasso couldn't stand for this kind of shit, someone ripping his snuff and riffing his stuff and reaching through his style to do something different, and he daubed that canary brown and chained and returned to his green and gold tit. But then that tit began to sing like a canary voice, spewing notes from its nipple past Picasso's brush and onto his palette, mixing black and white and yellow and red, and then pouring them in like blues into Pablo's ear until he shouted. And the canary refused to stay off the canvas, even as Picasso was looking and trying to paint his own teeth together because he couldn't work when he was carrying on so. But the canary clawed its brown little body into one of the boxcars to try to hide from the brush between the painter's teeth, and Pablo painted tracks just to get the thing to go away from him so he could think again. And sure enough, that boxcar hooked up to a big caboose old train, and that train toppled the easel, and the easel broke the canary's chain, and one day, not long after God had escaped Picasso's yellow paintbrush, a brown speckled bluebird flew out of a boxcar that had been hauled into New Orleans and became Ma Rainey.
Man, that's awesome. I was seeing that like a Disney version of like Fantasia, all those images and stuff. I was seeing all this stuff, transforming before my eyes. That's awesome. That's great. I like that.
Yeah.
What's the name of that one?
Why Picasso's Blue Period Ended.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so he thinks he's doing one thing, but there's a whole different thing happening through
him. Yeah. Now, we met through Ron Allen years ago. What was your first impression, and how did you meet Ron?
Yeah, well, now here I have to make a choice. I can read a Ron Allen poem of about 1.5 minutes
Whatever
or
you
shorter.
want, whatever you want.
Whatever I want. So I met him in 1997 at Cass Cafe one morning, introduced by another poet to him. I think he was still chefing at that point in time, and then it was game on. We became close colleagues, on the phone with each other almost daily. And so I gradually realized what I was in the presence of, realized that I didn't know what I was in the presence of. So I suppose I'll do a short one and then do a particular Ron Allen poem. Short one is called 0 Degrees of Nothing. Do not get very far away from the zero. The tether to the nothing is all. Buddha comes from not Buddha. This is the great addition. 0 plus 0 is 1, and 1 is many, and many are nothing, and nothing is never, and never is always. This is the last knot to be untied.
Yeah.
That's one way of describing Ron Allen. The other would be maybe something like this. Whose jawbone? Ron Allen is not Ron Allen, but a condor flight off the tower of dust. Primal throat of the neon wall, going from cranium to pelvis in 2.1 seconds, going down your spine, flying inside an ID. Daddy tongue of the blue night strut, wagging streets into shrieks of possession, kissing the brick lip with bullet sound. Rocking belly grunt of high ozone, open eye of the unthought om, blunt blend dream smoke, the universe in drag grinning, a prism of unbent black, radiating thick deliriums of supine fallout. The taste is raw cordite, salacious as a jalapeno popsicle, hard as unsliced moon, unrepentant as your mom. This is the nickel bag doing time inside a verb, floating word fission, atoms split into the mouth of now, like a purple explosion, like jail bar meltdown, like riot under the tongue, like your head in red orgasms of Jupiter. This is a bone on the loose in the cemetery of narrative synapses, a word levitation of the synced up sphinx, the flared nostril of time, the crapshoot of 9 legbas swinging hot erections like the nightsticks of hell, discovering God is a woman. His tongue is pancake fat with dripping metaphors, like a midnight river of yellow, like fried wetness of aphorism, a big coil of cranial tumescence, open invitation to cross the lip, climb into the throat, slide down and look around. Ron Allen is not Ron Allen, but the tooth of nirvana inside your own hunger, waiting to eat itself and leap into the sky.
Yeah. yeah. I like that one. I like that one. This is kind of one for me personally, you know. I always wanted to know this because I feel like this sometimes. But how do you redeem the soul of a vagabond?
Mm-hmm. Well, for you, I'm going to do a short one and a little bit longer one, too. That's okay?
Yeah.
All right. Short one is like this. Life in flamenco green. What if you lived at the extremity of your life, like a leaf before wind, drooping heavy in the hot June dark, possessed and naked in electric blue midnights, running wet with the clean lust of lightning when the thunder gods mount, and then whispering and whispering in the sheets of rain like a green flamenco dress in wanton swoop step to to the very edge of the nothingness over which you live, lamenting the limitation of stem and sap and anticipating the one time you will not be pulled back to the limb.
Yeah.
The other one is called Open Door, Infinite Blue. The door opens, infinity in the wall, like a flickering lid of a wick. Fall into the blue, thick summons. Indigo mood of rising moan, moon kin to the homeless eye. Spirit hover at the brink of collapse, pride lowered like a secret happiness. Perfume of an April breath, a pear blossom. The street is cold, hard stone growing garbage and heart in disguise of old clothes and smells of urine. Sweat runs down the neck back when the crime is predetermined. This is the color of Jesus at night. Cobalt vision of release under duress. Marine expanse of glistening cool. A sax note without a beginning. Dixie jive hollers after sundown, the scent of jasmine and rose, the sky-wide grin of snow. The door stands aglow. It smiles indiscriminate. Enter the aperture, open the lid, climb the light down to the dark rind of time, birth yourself like the first rhyme, flower from the bottom up, grow between the toes of your neighbor, love your lover's flavor, test all resolved by the face behind the bar, find yourself at the table of despair and break like bread there. Be eaten, be wine, be blind as the kindness of a friend, flowing as dark as blood, knowing purple is the mother of the blue, blue, blue brother of truth. Sing the blue, sing the door open, sing the blue blues croon of the rising tide of unrepentant poor, hoping in the wide open door, in the wide open eye, in the dark eye of God. Crawl inside, ride, ride the blue note home.
Man. Woo! I'm getting the treat here. This is some heavy hitting poetry here, man. Some heavy hitting poetry. That was kind of melodic and quite melodic and rhythmic. I can hear a lot of stuff going on with that, saxophones and trumpets and some splash hits and everything. I love to hear you do a show with a live band. That would be great.
Yeah, I love doing that kind of stuff. I've done it a couple times in my life, and yeah.
So having said that, what is music and how does it vibe with the word of man?
All right. So, I thought what I might do in relationship to that actually is read a paragraph big paragraph actually from one of my books. It's called Political Spirituality in an Age of Eco-Apocalypse. And it's actually a chapter on jazz.
Okay.
And what I'm talking about is jazz as a kind of augury of an orisha or a divinity or a spirit that is working itself through a saxophone or a horn, where the musician, again, doesn't know for sure what they're doing. being used. So, and I'm asking, what is it that's coming out the other end of that saxophone? What's the revelation that is happening through the instrumentation? And I'll start reading now. But it's actually the revelation of the human race itself that remains in eclipse in this quaking hard epiphany of America. Cutting sessions between jazz artists cut multiple ways culturally. They sometimes involve white musicians in epic struggle with black. Saxophonist Art Pepper recalled to writer Neil Leonard a night when Sonny Stitt challenged Pepper to gladiatorial combat and proceeded to do everything on a saxophone a person could do for about an hour, then stopped and gave Pepper one of those looks, implying, "All right, your turn." Pepper was shaking in his boots, hooked, drunk, strung out, about to lose his wife, fearful of arrest by narcs, and faced with having to play one of the hardest numbers possible, just played impeccably with breakneck speed and inimitable virtuosity. Pepper was tempted just to walk away and quit jazz, but took a deep breath, forgot everything, and let everything come out. His description afterwards was that he played way over his head, finding a different kind of thread into the piece that slowly opened into the kingdom of feeling and out to the screaming people, and then blew and blew until he finished in a lather of sweat and shivers, hardly aware where he was. The account is evocative of being mounted like a horse of the gods in West African possession, an enhancement of performance by way of trance, built of drug and drum, bassline thump and throbbing buzz of crowd. Ironically, says writer Floyd in recapping that scene of carving, Pepper was a white musician who was thriving on African-American cultural memory and tradition. In exchanging a glance from Stitt as the people roared their approval, Pepper was given in return a simple, "All right." And that was it. But that's what it is all about. Here was the rare about-face, a white musician, eschewing the minstrel seduction of a previous century, hooked not only on drugs, but the music itself, hawking his entire life for the sake of a brief nod of acknowledgement. There is a huge mystery at work here, fascinating and fearful at once, demanding everything, much as it did of a Beiderbecke, but in the name of what?
Wow. 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 So, I don't know, can you identify with the song and expressing it in the poem?
Yeah, and I've done that multiple times. I could do Miles Davis, Bitches Brew, got a piece there, but I think to mix it up a little bit, I'm going to do Leonard Cohen.
Okay.
He's got a gravelly kind of voice, Canadian songwriter, poet. So this is called For Leonard Cohen. The voice was gray like an asphalt sun, rasping love that had come undone. A broken word in a shattered cup that Greg's all drunk, the words corrupt. Hunched down in loss full of night and dreams, its gravel tones, its seamless seams. They sing my number like a countless one, scattered in the wind as golden as rum. And I sing their fate on a tongue struck gum in a bleeding heart full of unsung drums. And the song sings on like a night bird cry, fierce as a fever in an closed eye. And the sun never blinks, and the night never closes, and the loss never ceases, and the heart boils on. And the longing grows like a starless winter full of fallen lovers and dark blue rivers. And the hand is empty on the cheek of age, remembering kisses from the lips of the sage. And the dreaming rages and the chains cut deep, and you stand like a forest and you sleep like the meek. And the door slowly closes, and the key slowly turns, and the eye burns the pages, and the song burns the words. And the black is deep, and the black is loud, and its fingers curl like a funeral shroud. But it's you who they remember, and it's you they seek. The hand is mine on my lover's cheek. The hand is warm, but the night is weak.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Now, if you want the Miles Davis thing, I can do that too.
Yeah,
but I
you
don't
can
know
do that. I gotta hear some Miles. I gotta hear something about Miles.
All right, we'll do this. This is called Miles Upon Miles, Night Driving, or Listening to Bitches Brew at 60 miles an hour in western Michigan after midnight. I wrote the thing actually while I was driving, scribbling on the seat next to me. Battle Black Bitches Bump Buddha Brew, Miles Davis Horn Funk, the sapient knot of scream. This is the city of insanity, the grease sizzled grimace of now inside of concrete while the siren wails. Night come cobalt vision, wet angle of hip one, wide with broken notes. The lit dribbles galloping universes of frozen hot funk, ice, blood, tongue flow, splitting the night with bullets of alone, with fingers stroke purple razors, with shivered fungus, with burning orange head eruptions, vision black eyeball show, night hawk wind tongue, scorching the mind, rioting fingers of ripped catastrophes, rivet of a single idea nailed to the wall of street. Your feet on top of your own idea, pelvic howl of unsung childhoods, father, mother, Jew, Greek, black, white, dream of yellow, green, gold, gourmet, blood, brown as a random evacuation, red as a bottom line, blue as frank confession, blue as crust of old hurt sex, blue as red, blue as beggar, my tongue is struck of cramped intention as unpredicted hailstorm shredding all my corn, tearing green into a bottomless vacancy of uncolored nothing. This is America on the fingertip of God, like an unwanted tattoo. Note of crooked revolutions, the flush pocket of original sin, the skin of uncircumcised corruption falling out of a yellow saxophone, pink tongue, black hole burn, smoking galaxy of unrepentant whiskey, the lit wick of crackhood revelation like a sudden understanding of George Bush. This is finger of flying funk, the clink of cold change on the counter, the dying shame of undulating populations. Sound the scream, sound the silence, sound the scream of Abner Louima's dream, sound the ream round the levitating palm of dead player, the prayer of unrelenting grandmothers, all the eardrum waste of tongueless lovers, the cover on the toilet seat. This is the beat of the beat in cold heat of the unpaid now.
Wow. Ooh. Man. That's awesome. That's awesome. I was hearing the track while you were saying that. Yeah. Couple more. These last three. And you can do them in any order you want. What does Detroit mean to you? What is your totem, and how do you shapeshift between it and yourself? and also just give us a medley of your verb.
Yeah, so let me see. I had that Detroit thing and then set it aside here for a minute. Let me relocate it.
Take your time.
Not those, not that. Wow, where is it? Well, all right, let me just do this for Detroit. Again, I've got a big one and a little one.
What's
and
that?
Then for the other two, I've got medium-sized ones each.
Read whatever you like.
All right. This is actually a piece that I wrote just last year. I've been writing poems as riffs on the scripture readings at St. Peter's Episcopal Church, an activist church on the near west side.
Okay.
It's called An End, a Beginning, and the Gospel of Everything Else. So Biden has taken oath, and Kamala offered wisdom and mirth, and the inaugural address given hope, birth, and poet Amanda regaled the agenda with youth and fierce promise. But the lie continues its insemination, and supremacy its recrimination, and the country's history roils and boils and threatens hot splash and blood, and the climate rages against the hubris, fossil fuel mongers still burning oil into plastic rather than softening heads into leadership and giving. And we read, without a pew between us, of Jonah of old, before a cold enemy of state, in a gate of prophecy after long travail in the gullet of fear, cast into the sea storm for the sake of the ship, saved by a whale from the salt mother's final quip and embrace. And Moses was accosted by a bush, given repast by aphid, offal, and counsel in a cloud, and community direction in a strip of rock, while Elijah caught nurture from ravens on the hunt, and Ezekiel saw visions of griffin and oxen on the run up to Jerusalem's abandonment, and Jesus found heft and healing east of the Jordan under tutelage to the talons of the pigeon, and Peter will name the same a stone that is alive and breathing, and John in a trance gaze of the end and the beginning offers water that is living, and the seraph serpents blaze, and the cherub morning stars raid the moon, and magi bring gum from the thorn, and mustard grows a forest, and mulberry invading like a despot is uprooted, and the fig figures the coming in leaf and cunning, and the mountain is cast back whence it came into the sea, and Leviathan sports on the waves, and Behemoth cavorts in the reeds, and Ziz like a dragon goes whizzing overhead into the mud gold and the canyon red, and all this levity, this frivolity, the conviviality, this buzz and chortle, this flipped fin and stretched out bow and big mouth roar from the lion and snore from the bear. All of this is ancestry and sizzle by which we are gifted like a fiddle played by an uncle vibrating a riddle into a parable decanted as a muddle for the spectacle of demand of the ridicule and trouble that rises like a flame from a griddle overheated by the piddling small imagination we bring to the socially mediated littleness and despair, because we can only care if we survive, no matter the lair and nest and river and blessed den of all the rest of our kin, who even if rendered supine and gone, will nonetheless combine in bone and tooth and fur into something new and fair, even if we become but mere tenants of the zoo we are creating of an entire planet. So despair not. Prepare the fare for that kind of banquet, and hunker down into the dream of the haint and the haunt and the saint, and the great dance of the faint, burning trillion-fold of the night sky that is still cooking up life and God in spite of. Despair not. be bright as a comet, flare ordinary and magnificent as a daisy in a park, like I just saw in a mid-January week walk in the midst of Detroit, cold and small, peaking like spring straight out of the maw of winter. So go ahead and flower, even if it's snowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, at one level, that's Detroit for me.
That's Detroit. That's Detroit, all right.
All right, you wanted a totem piece and a medley piece. So what is my totem? I don't know. I'm actually not in an indigenous community that can give that to me, so it's not like I know for sure, but I have been reestablishing relationship with nature, particularly with some of the birds right outside my window where I live here. It's too big a story to tell here, but actually I'm going to preach the story this coming Sunday. But they pointed me in the direction of some of the squirrels out on the locust trees right outside my window. And I was fascinated with a cardinal, redbird, established a relationship with him over 2 years, but dissed the squirrels. And then one day the squirrels took me on about it, and on a branch outside my window, reamed my behind for about 10 minutes for being dismissive of them. And then I started to do some research and learned that one of the deep mythic figures in my German side of my ancestry, the world tree, Yggdrasil, has a squirrel running up and down it, carrying messages between the dragon at the roots and the eagle at the top. And that squirrel is understood to be a skald. And the word skald is what's taken up for the social critic in those societies who scalds the ears with both with alliterative rhyme, but also prophetic critique as a poet.
There you go.
And so I learned that the squirrel is the poet on the tree, keeping everybody sort of stirred up.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is the thing I wrote a number of years ago. It's called Risking Desire. Is it spirit or ghost, this chaos, rooted in marrow, under navel, shooting bullets out of the mouth, a brain dance of dream, laughing lunatic spasms of truth in the eye, raising grandfathers from the groin and children from the rib in a bone of broken promises, mending itself with memories. Time is the stage of many. Space is parallel. Heaven is there and here in the same body. A collapse of worlds. Honey between bees. String galaxies thinking cyber gods, or evil out of its mind. This moment is a world falling off the lip an hour after the Messiah has come, with jazz still in the horn. You are tree, ground, air, dew, sweet death of border, bark peeling off the third eye looking up, iambic schizophrenia scream finding home in a squirrel leaping off the branch. Can you live not suspended over 30 feet of nothing? There's no other truth worth the groan when the feet splay in the unborn aerobic desire of the dead climbing your spine. To fly, you must jump.
Man.
Final one. The verb will be worship. What if you were thrown down by a mountain panther on a ledge of truth in Nepal, your arm, teeth torn to its root and removed, licked clean and given back to you as a relic? Could you worship? Could you drill it with holes and play it with your toes as a flute pipe to the ferocity and sheer eloquence of being alive? What if you grew beak and lost lid, went yellow in the iris and broad at the breast and feathered, found your arch gripping bark in the midnight of trees and moons? Could you swoop on the flurry of foot in the dark below and slice throat, pick bone, and scream your cessation in a yellow-gulleted mystical woo? What if you dug up your grandmother, raped in a raid 7 generations ago, fused her empty vertebrae sockets one by one into a cylinder like a didgeridoo, and put it to your lip and found a soft place in the wind that writhed like a not quite dead pain, and remembered her open eyeball with your nostril and your tongue? Could you open a vein of resolve and drip libation until her rage grew a new stage of evolution through your body? Is your prayer savage, like the Hun of claw for carrion, and you are the carrion? Does your spirit serrate skin and bleed bile? Do you know the visceral terror of self-knowledge, like your head in the bear's mouth, and no trainer and no zoo in sight? How much will you pay to become conscious and alive to your death, like the wind over Everest? Are you willing to fall that far into bliss?
Wow. Wow. This is awesome. That's awesome. I got a surprise question. This one I saved. That was the bonus question. I don't say let you go wherever you want to go with it. How do you love a woman?
Ooh, okay. I will do that in terms of how I do love my woman.
There you go.
Just give me 1 second here. That's very handy. Right here. I write her poems for her birthday, for Christmas, for Valentine's Day, and for our anniversary. I can remember it. And as I mentioned, she's a Filipino who grew up in a barrio north of Manila, is a professor, is a walking statement of bright colors that'll slap your eyeball awake 50 yards down the sidewalk like an exclamation mark in clothes. She's an amazing woman. So this is called Solstice. Your slight, gruff vibrato purr on the morning pillow, still the sound of the sun rising like a never-ceasing blossom from the horizon of all my life's nights, summoning me to myself, as if knighthood were not long past or chivalry a distant memory of a dream of a bloody age. And like a fat squirrel of dawn descending the locust for food with bushed out tail, like a cavorting hummingbird expecting nectar, I crawl from the depths of my midnight nest beside your curled toes to dare again believe in light, because I hear its tinkle between your words, and I know not how such mysteries came to be beneath our aging flesh, tattered here and there by missteps and ghostly wounds, born of peacock delusions, yet bearing now as the dark thickens across a globe and threatens the sight of day for oceans and glaciers and kin. A quiet hum of peace, little geysers of butterflies, Morpheus blue and shimmering in their brief flight up the spine, like Genesis was still future, and hope a great, huge fish lolling in the spray, each growing wrinkle, sign now of beauty not yet killed and proud beneath the frayed cocoon. In the limpid black of years gone back to ancestral dreaming. Our children unborn play in the heart never bow. The laugh as full of youth as a girl in a garden of wiggling minnows. Pouring down a barrio street, or words in a breath awakening this new hour. Still rich with the timbre of time, spiraling like a clock of stars, like Mary reborn in a peasant's eye, or the dragon of unfed desires, so strangely and suddenly struck full by that single slight sound on the pillow, calling the world back from the brink in its tender trill. Babe, there's a galaxy born every morning in my bed, and how astonished the powers would be if they ever fathomed its power of flowering, as relentless and gentle as water.
Wow. Wow, it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much. What are some of your favorite places that you visited or would like to visit?
Well, for me, what immediately comes to mind are two. Ireland. I've got a little bit of Irish in me. First and only colony inside Europe. Visited there in 1995. We don't know a lot about that part of our history, but I had a deep, profound response to it. It was hosted everywhere I went. People just instantly take me in, give me Guinness, and it was an amazing experience, a kind of homecoming. So that's one place. And Ireland itself is starkly beautiful. A lot of bare rock, wind-swept, wide-open vista or shoreline. So that's one place. The other place that I really respond to is in the Southwest. And when I was living with Lily in Denver, had a chance to often visit mesa country, canyon country in New Mexico and Arizona, again, where you have, big horizons, big sky, and then bare rock. In this case, a lot of it reddish hued, very stark, austere in its beauty, very demanding. And I respond deeply to that as well.
Okay. That's good to know. All right, I'll be in touch, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate you very much.
All right.
All right, later.
Later.